Hey folks, this is Kalani. We have some more interesting information about the future of Shadowlands, specifically how Season 4 is going to work regarding the new Fated Raid system and some extra dungeon options. There are some huge item level increases coming for raiders, new portals to help you get around in Season 4, and the seasonal affix is now available for testing so we can see exactly how that's going to work. There's quite a bit to get through, so let's break it all down. Before we jump in, be sure to hit up that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. First up this week, we have a better idea of how the Fated Raids in Season 4 are going to work and what kinds of item levels we can expect to get from these souped up raid encounters. If you open up the Dungeon Journal and flip to the raid section where the Shadowlands raids are listed, there is a new icon that marks the current active Fated Raid. This little pentagon will show you exactly which raid will be the target for any given week in Season 4. If you hover over it, it says Castle Nathria Fated. This week, bosses in this raid are empowered with a special affix. Loot drops are upgraded to a higher item level. So as the weeks go by, this icon will go from Castle Nathria to Sanctum of Domination to Sepulchre of the First Ones and then just keep rotating. So while all three raids will be relevant and scaled up to provide a challenge and drop higher item level loot, we will only have access to one of them at a time. As for how high this gear is going to go, we can actually see the updated item levels in the Dungeon Journal as well. They're going to start out at item level 278 for normal, then that goes up to 291 for heroic, and then mythic will drop item level 304 gear. If you're curious about looking for raid difficulty, that's going to be item level 265 this time around. The end of raid bosses will also retain their slight item level bump in all difficulties. For Castle Nathria, for example, both the Stone Legion Generals and the Sire Denathrius encounters will drop gear that is 7 item levels higher than the rest of the raid. That puts their gear up to item level 285 on normal, 297 on heroic, and a whopping 311 on mythic. That's going to end up being some very powerful gear indeed. Remember that Fated Raids will also give us the opportunity to collect a new currency that we can spend to outright buy gear from new vendors in Oribos that would otherwise only drop from the raid, and then there are also upgrade items that we can collect after 20 kills on Heroic or 20 kills on Mythic. Those upgrade items let you bump up any piece of gear to Heroic or Mythic difficulty with those crazy high item levels in tow, so we're going to have quite a few options when it comes to gearing up and progressing in raids when Season 4 rolls around. I'm really excited to see how this all pans out because it really could influence the future of raid progression and gearing progression in general for World of Warcraft. Moving on, the new seasonal affix for Season 4 of Mythic Plus Dungeons is now available for testing on the PTR, and it's going to work significantly differently when compared to some of the other affixes we've seen so far. The new affix is called Shrouded, and it's pretty simple. Throughout the dungeon, you'll find monsters that have a dark aura around them, and they will have the disguised buff. When you engage these mobs, they turn into Dreadlords, because I guess everything and everyone is a Dreadlord now. When you kill a Dreadlord, you get 2 buffs. A restoration buff that restores 6% of your health and mana every second for 5 seconds, so 30% health and mana total, and then you also gain a stack of a bounty buff. This bounty buff will increase your crit, haste, or versatility by 2%, or your mastery by 69. You can choose which bounty buff you want at the start of the dungeon by interacting with a new NPC there. There's also a mini-boss hidden among these Dreadlords which will give you 3 stacks of your bounty buff when killed and a stronger version of the restoration buff. So killing Dreadlords gives you secondary stats. That's kind of the whole affix in a nutshell. Now you might immediately think, okay, cool, I'm going straight for whatever my best secondary stat is, right? I want crit, so I'm going to stack some more crit. Easy. But hold on a second, even though you might scale incredibly well with haste or mastery or crit, versatility might actually be one of the better options here. Sure, you won't be dealing as much damage in most cases unless you scale really well with verse, but the most important factor here would be the damage reduction. This affix alone could allow you to push keys higher than ever before, simply because you now get a huge free stacking damage reduction buff with versatility. That could be the difference between getting one shot on a tyrannical boss and walking away scot-free. You might be able to ignore more mechanics and focus on DPS instead. It's all going to depend on how many stacks you can get by the end of the run, but a huge chunk of free versatility is kinda like running around with multiple Vantis runes active all the time for absolutely every trash monster and boss in the dungeon. It's gonna end up being quite powerful, I think. So all in all, this new Affix looks like it's going to be very straightforward and very simple. There aren't any massive negative aspects or drawbacks to consider and take into account. If you kill the Dreadlord mobs, you get more secondary stats. You do more damage or healing, you get a nice regen buff to keep pulling, and you're probably going to end up clearing the dungeon faster and faster because the stacks just accumulate throughout the run. That means you're also going to be significantly more powerful at the end when compared to the start, which is going to be great for blasting through those end of dungeon bosses. Now, one reason why this Affix might be so simple is potentially because we have a new round of dungeons to learn for Season 4. The only dungeons that are the same as previous seasons in Shadowlands are the Tazavesh dungeons. We'll have 8 dungeons total, the 2 Tazavesh wings, the 2 Mechagon wings from Battle for Azeroth, the 2 Karazhan wings from Legion, and then there's also the Grimrail Depot and the Iron Docks from Warlords of Draenor. So every mega dungeon that we've seen so far in WoW, plus 2 Warlords of Draenor dungeons thrown in for good measure, with 6 out of the 8 available dungeons being new options for Shadowlands Mythic Plus. The community as a whole will need to learn the dungeons, the monsters, the trash packs, and just the best routes in general. That's going to be significantly easier with a simple seasonal Affix, so that might be why they didn't go balls to the wall this time. Now personally, I think Season 4 is the perfect time to try something crazy. It's supposed to be a shorter season, it's the very end of the expansion, and there's not really anything to lose from doing something fun and quirky. I would argue it's the safest time to do something that isn't safe, if you see what I mean. Take some risks, have some fun with it, let players go absolutely bonkers with power-ups. But I guess the dev team disagrees because they've taken a road that is almost opposite of that. Keep things easy, keep things simple, and honestly maybe keep things low effort so they can focus on Dragonflight and what comes next. Hopefully the new rotation of dungeons provides enough of an incentive to bring Mythic Plus players back for Season 4 because, especially when compared to the new raid options we have to look forward to, Mythic Plus looks like it's going to be a little bland. With that being said, it's still significantly better than carrying on Season 3 for another 4 to 6 months. Now, if you were perhaps a little worried about the Season 4 dungeons being all over the place and maybe not even knowing which expansion they are a part of or where they are in the world, you don't need to worry. The dev team has got you covered with some brand new portals in Oribos. On the top floor, where you can find the other gateways, just to the side of the flight path, you can find a new NPC called Affix, who has an inherent interest in exotic portals. Around that NPC you can find portals to Mechagon, Karazhan and Gorgrond. Mechagon will take you right to the doorstep of the Mechagon Mega Dungeon. The Karazhan portal is very much the same, straight to the entrance of the dungeon, though bear in mind the front entrance of Karazhan will not take you to the dungeon itself. You'll have to pop up to the side for the dungeon entrance. And then for the Gorgrond portal, you're going to have to do some legwork either way because there are 2 dungeons that we're looking for. The portal plops you out right next to the Grimrail Depot dungeon, and then to get to the Iron Docks you'll have to fly to the north a little bit. You're still really close though, so getting to any of these dungeons should be quite quick in general. As a side note, while getting to these areas is going to be nice and easy, there doesn't seem to be anything in place to help you get back. So make sure you're ready to go straight into the dungeon before you walk through those portals, because you're going to need to use a Hearthstone or a teleport to get back to the Shadowlands, or anywhere with anything useful. But that's our first look at the new seasonal Affix for Mythic Plus in Season 4 and how the Fated raids are shaping up on the PTR so far. What do you think about the Shrouded Affix? Is it too simple, or is simple exactly what you think this season needs? Are you interested in the Fated raid system coming in Season 4, or are you really just waiting for more Dragonflight information? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to everyone who's subscribed on Twitch. You can see the names floating by on screen. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.